We are ready.
All righty, I'd like to call to order this meeting of the Nevada's Commission on Off-Highway Vehicles. It is 1:40 on March the 13th. All right, let's begin with the pledge. Please rise. We're going to pretend the flag is over in that corner. Would you lead us off, Mr. Giroux? Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, folks. All right, Kathy, could you take the roll call, please?
Charlie Cox.
Present.
Darren Elmore.
Present.
Michael Giroux. John Griggs.
Present.
Paul Jackson.
Present.
Gary Lambert.
Present.
Carrie Lee.
Present.
Jim Richardson. Susan Baker.
Present.
Greg McKay.
Present.
We have quorum.
Thank you. Please mark Mr. Richardson as absent with, what do they call that? Excused absence, and he may be joining us a little bit later on. All right. Okay, before we start public comment, a couple of quick housekeeping questions, or a couple of quick housekeeping points. We are going to be able to do live feed of our meetings starting next week. I was hoping to try and get it done this week, but things prevailed against us being able to do that, but it will be starting next week. We're still trying to work out something on a call-in situation, but we kind of need to have a switchboard. It is something we're working on, but I've at this point, no idea how to make that happen yet, but I'm sure we will get something worked out. Couple of quick housekeeping right before we get into public comment. Public comment's not a Q&A session. Basically, if you have a comment about the commission or the actions or pretty much anything you want, and it's governed by the First Amendment, please come up, make your comments. Don't expect an answer. The commissioners may make a statement after the public comment period is over, and that may or may not address your question. Also, we're going to be limited on time. This was the only slot that we could get from LCB for this meeting, and we have to be gone out of here by about 4:15. So we do need to move the meeting along as quickly as possible, and I'd appreciate any help from those folks doing public comment. Please keep your comments to the allotted 3 minutes. We do tend to be a little lax and allow people to go on if they want to finish a point, but again, please bear in mind that we need to get out of here, and it'll be one set of comments per person. All right, with that, I believe Commissioner Baker has a public comment. Commissioner Baker?
No, I'm going to save it for a different point on the agenda.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's start with Carson City. Do we have anybody wishing to make public comment? Mr. Holcomb.
Commissioners, my name is Doug Holcomb. Today I speak to you representing myself. I'm a tax-paying Nevada OHV registration-paying Nevada resident. I assume that you all read the letter of concern that I sent to the governor's office and copied to you. Commissioner Jackson phoned me soon after I sent the email. We spoke only briefly as he had to take another phone call. He emailed me later, and at that time I decided that the two of us didn't need to carry on a private email discussion, and that I would explain my letter and my intentions to all of you at this meeting, at this forum. With the most recent developments, I have decided to defer the specifics of those comments explaining my concerns to the letter that will be written by Attorney Paul Quaid. The one issue that I need to mention, the one that really bothers me, is the non-meeting meeting. Think about this from a public perception point of view. A state commission can hold meetings where they can include or exclude any commission members of their choosing. While not legally able to make decisions, you can discuss and shape commission policy behind closed doors without any public input, any public scrutiny, or state scrutiny. To me, this is a slap in the face of all ethical, open, honest decision makers and fits right in with my concerns in the transparency issue, the lack of public notice, and it should be an open meeting law violation. My only goal here is to see a completely open, transparent, and well-functioning OHV commission. Since this commission's inception, I have been one of your biggest supporters, especially towards those OHV users with lingering trust issues from past experiences. Your one and only job here is to enhance the Nevada off-highway vehicle experience. That in turn will financially enhance the state of Nevada and all Nevada residents. I and all Nevada OHV owners trust that you are here for the benefit of the OHV community and only the OHV community. All Nevada OHV registration paying users have entrusted their money to you folks to work for their benefit. I ask that if your heart is not in this for the OHV users and only the OHV users, please step aside and allow someone else whose heart is in the right place to take your seat. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Holcomb. Anybody else here from Carson City who would like to speak? I don't see anybody. Oh, one person, go ahead.
Good afternoon. My name's Larry Calkins, and I am the president of the Nevada Four-Wheel Drive Association. And like other organizations, we have some great concerns, and I also had written a letter to Governor Sandoval, of which you all received copies, so I won't elaborate on the contents of the letter. I have a couple comments, though, in general. The OHV community is not antagonistic towards the OHV program. It's extremely interested in seeing the program move forward in a legal and transparent way. The OHV community has not gone to the media, fearing that a media circus would be detrimental. However, if the issues are not resolved, it's inevitable. And that's my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, sir. Mr. Quaid?
Paul Quaid on behalf of Nevada Trail Stewards. First, I do want to take time to thank the members of the commission that are interested in the effective use of public lands, the education of the OHV community and others related to the use of public lands. I know that many of you came on this commission in a largely volunteer fashion and are very concerned as to the maelstrom that has occurred in this matter. In reviewing the past conduct of the commission over the last couple of years, I know there's been some honest, hard work that's occurred, and that many members of this commission have the right things in mind as far as the goals of the commission. And I want to initially reiterate that there is no antagonism by or from the Nevada Trail Stewards against the commission itself. With that said, I did prepare a letter, a 6-page single-spaced letter in response to requests from certain members of the commission with respect to specifics as to our belief that there have been violations of Nevada Open Meeting Law and Administrative Procedures Act. That letter was forwarded to the members of the commission via email. I'm asking that that letter be, the original of that letter be taken by the commission at this point, marked and made part of the record.
Kathy, would you take the letter and make sure it's part of the record? Thank you. Anyone else here in Carson?
I'm not done.
What a shock.
I have, what was that, Mr. Jackson? I have a second letter that I developed today, and it's a request for immediate inspection of the audio recordings of commission meetings. We are making that request pursuant to NRS 241035-4, which is cited within the letter. I am going to read part of the letter because of the concerns that have been raised related to the failure to produce these recordings, as well as in combination of Mr. Jackson's request that members of the community review the actions of the commission to determine what actually was going on. And I read part of the letter as follows. The request is made in addition to and based upon the recordings made available on the commission's website. That was as of late last week or early this week. The February 1st, 2004 commission meeting related to the grant process was recorded. A recording has been made available on the commission website. However, the recording may be incomplete and possibly altered based upon the review of the recordings available earlier this week. This does not even take in consideration the process that was set up to listen to the recording on the website, which makes it very difficult to review the audio recording in its entirety. On February 12, 2004, the commission noticed and held 2 meetings. The meeting to address the grant appeal process and related to the final funding of the approved grants was to begin at 9 a.m. The other special meeting was to begin immediately following. 2 items of concern related to the record. First, there was an audio-video recording of both meetings. At the conclusion of the meetings, a representative of the commission obtained a copy of the recording, and the recording was thereafter deleted. Only the commission now has a copy of that recording. It must be made immediately available to the public for
So
inspection.
could I verify something? Somebody deleted the DVD?
According to the LCB.
Kathy? And again, because this is the first I've heard of this.
I'm unaware of what Mr. Quaid is talking about.
Is that DVD available? Do you
Yes,
have a
it
copy?
is.
Can you make sure that there's a copy made and it provided to Mr. Quaid?
Absolutely.
That would be great.
Thank you, Ms. Quaid.
Second, a review of the commission website reveals that it is being altered and items removed. I've attached an exhibit in this regard. I have in my possession 2 different versions of the February 12, 2014 special meeting notice. I raised concerns about at that meeting. Neither notice appears at the website at this time, nor are there minutes related to the February 12th special meeting made available. In short, I have grave concerns as to the withholding or alteration of public records. Therefore, I'm requesting to inspect the original recordings immediately and to have the same duplicated for further analysis. No problem. And while we're doing that, I'll bring over the letter to.
What I'm going to do, Mr. Quaid, is if you would get with Kathy at the conclusion of the meeting, she doesn't have the original recordings with her, but she does have them available. And you can make arrangements with her to pick them up, copy them, whatever you want.
Thank you very much. Just briefly, and I'm going to keep this short because I know we're short on time. The first substantive agenda item number 5 in the notice of public meeting today, indicates that there will be discussion of the minutes related to the January 31st, February 1st, February 6th, and February 12th meetings We do not have draft copies of those minutes. They have not been made publicly available. It is impossible for anyone in the public to make a comment on proposed meeting minutes without knowing what they are. In particular, I made public comments. I want to make sure that those comments are accurately reflected in the minutes. We can't do that without a draft copy of those meeting minutes. Those have been requested, and they're still not available.
When did you request those minutes, sir?
Yesterday.
Oh, well, the copies of the minutes are available. She has a draft copy right there.
Draft minutes?
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. The copy of the draft minutes are available right over there, sir.
I'll be sure to look at them and during the meeting. In addition, apparently under agenda item number 7, there are draft regulations that are being proposed for consideration and action by the entire commission. I note in my letter of yesterday's date that there have been no notice meetings of the Administrative Regulation Committee related to the drafting of these new regulations that pertain not only to the quote-unquote rules of operation, but also to the grant selection and grant funding. Obviously, this is the primary concern of the general public and interested parties as to the grant process and the disregard of this commission of its own grant guidelines. Whether the grant guidelines had legal effect is subject to argument, but the reality is that this commission is apparently, according to its own agenda item, going to be addressing and acting upon proposed regulations that, again, have not been made publicly available, and any discussions or consideration of these proposed regulations that are to be acted on today by this commission have not been made publicly available or publicly noticed related to, again, the discussions, consideration, or action by the Administrative Regulations Committee. It's a grave concern of mine that this commission was going to be acting upon proposed regulations that the public hasn't even seen at this point. I assume those proposed regulations are available to the public at this point also?
I think you've got a lot of your facts wrong, and it's going to be clear a little bit later on in the meeting. I'm not going to waste time by going into that. But there were no meetings of the Regulation Committee. The commission, one member of the commission put together some regulations. There was no discussion by email. I believe there were some commissioners added suggestions, but again, there was no discussion. There was no meeting. If you think we broke the open meeting law by doing that, then you're obviously welcome to go to the AG and say, and challenge it. But I think basically you got most of your facts wrong. I don't know where you got them from, but they're wrong.
Okay.
I'm sorry. They're ideas for regulations, proposed ideas or proposed, but they're not regulations yet. And in fact, we're going to be discussing them as a committee of the whole today. All right.
As a commission of the whole?
I apologize, yes, the commission of the whole.
Okay. So you're telling us on the record that there was
So
no
we-
meetings of the
we-
Administrative Regulations Committee?
So we've been very indulgent with you. You've went on and on and on. It's a 3-minute time limit. So again, if you feel we've violated the open meeting laws, you're free to go ahead and make a complaint. Next.
We have, and we will be pursuing that with Mr. Taylor of the Attorney General's office in separate cover related to that, and be requesting a full investigation as to the conduct. We're asking that the commission
Sir,
preserve
that's fine.
any emails that do not constitute discussion. So we'll be happy to have that. I'm happy to hear what discussions did occur or did not occur from the commission. Thank you.
All right, is there anybody else? Hold on a second.
I should be myself.
We just hold 1 second. We have a question from the commission. Go ahead, sir.
Gary Lambert for the record. I received several emails during the course of the last couple of weeks asking me to make comments about regulations, and I declined to be involved with a serial email that was directed to the entire commission. Is that or is that not a serial meeting if I were to have responded to it, because perhaps I'm not well enough educated, but it was my understanding that to have responded to those emails would have fallen well outside of my code of conduct as required.
Mr. Lemon, in answer to that, I don't remember any serial emails. I do remember one email that said, if you've got any ideas, please send them to us. But I'm sure that if you have copies of those emails,
Wasn't there?
Mr. Wade would love to get a hold of them, and he can follow with his
Weren't there
complaint.
multiple drafts with emails sent to the commission asking for comment?
I don't
think
believe so,
there
sir,
were.
no.
We'll
All
see.
right. All right, go ahead, ma'am. Name and organization for the record.
Karen Boger, Nevada Chapter Backcountry Hunters and Anglers. Thanks for the opportunity to speak, but I may not have much of anything to say if you answer yes to this question. I sent you yet a second comment letter this morning. Has that already been received? If so, I don't really need to
Yes.
bore you with reading my letter. Okay, great. Then just one quick comment in response to what my friend Doug had to say here a moment ago, and that's just to clarify something, having been on the original stakeholder group that crafted this bill. It was very much a compromise bill of many different entities and stakeholders, and we made it very clear that when the grant process began, that there were to be a number of different categories of grants, whether it was for trail construction or trail user-created route restoration or education or enforcement, a whole plethora of different things that impact for positive or negative off-road vehicle use. And by doing so, our hope was that it then becomes a sustainable activity into the future. So not all grants were expected by that group to be just for ORV use for recreation, and in fact, for our members, most of them do not use them for recreation, but rather to get to where we want to go, park, and then hike. But also, many of my rancher and Aggie family and friends also use them for work. So there are lots of different uses of OHVs that these grants should be intended for. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bogle. All right. Is there
Mr. Chair?
Yeah, go ahead, sir. I'm sorry.
Can I just confirm that we have a copy of Ms. Boger's letter in the record? We acknowledge that we received it, but I just want to make sure. And if not, can we get a copy of it? Can you give it to Kathy, please? Thank you.
I believe I have a copy, but I'm happy to take another one. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, go ahead. Name and organization, please, sir.
This is Scott Gers with the Nevada Trail Stewards. Reading a request from the Off-Road Business Association, a letter that was sent to Governor Sandoval on February 27th. And that letter states, "Dear Governor Sandoval, I'm writing today as the President and CEO of the Off-Road Business Association, ORBA. ORBA is an international trade association that represents businesses and corporations from around the world. Our members include large corporations such as Lincoln Electric, Tenneco, while at the same time we represent the small, independent mom-and-pop storefronts. ORBA's primary function is to ensure, protect, and expand responsible OHV community opportunity on the public and private land. The concern of ORBA is the confusion and possible misconduct of the NCOHV chairman. Our application was submitted with the understanding that was posted in the grant guidelines that all grants would be scored with an identified point system. 2, an opportunity to appeal would be given to those who were denied in the process. 3, to date, ORBA has not been formally notified, nor has there been any appeal process been outlined or identified. 4, the mission of this commission severely lacks an objective, clear plan. There are many rumors swirling around this unfortunate circumstance. While it is clear that ORBA is standing for legal remedy, that is not our intent at this time. We believe that this can be easily resolved so that Nevada remains an independent place for its citizens and visitors to recreate. Business in America depends on integrity and an open process. The current commission chairman has no interest in what's best for Nevada OHV. Best, Fred Wiley, CEO and president of ORBA. Mr. Wiley voiced his concerns, as well as several other members and organizations, that I will provide the secretary with letters and not read into public comment today in interest of time. However, I do believe that it is special to make a point that there are emails that are accompanying some of these letters where several of these organizations' representatives have been contacted by Commissioner Jackson, notifying them of their wrongdoings and containing some intimidating conversations that they've placed into these emails. Some of these emails, you'll notice, commissioners, are directed to all of you in the beginning of the email, and then the chain quickly drops off to simply a conversation with Mr. Jackson and the author of the email. So those are important for everyone to see, since they have not been seen by the rest of the public. I think that in a clear and transparent view of the OHV Commission, that you all have the right as commissioners to understand what's being transpired back and forth on your behalf. So I'll take
it up,
my
Mr.
leave,
Goes.
and I'll give this to Mrs.
All right. Is there any public, oh, I'm sorry, we still have one public comment here in Carson. Name and organization, sir?
For the record, Pat Bruce, Friends of Nevada Wilderness. I'd like to thank the commission, all of you taking your time to do something other than sitting on the couch as regular Americans with regular jobs, to do something in the public interest as well. And I appreciate that, and the time that you spend and extra time that has been spent in this process. I am the Stewardship Program Director for Friends of Nevada Wilderness. We're a 501c3 nonprofit organization for 30 years now. Friends has, as an organization, come to the commission and put in good faith, the applications and process for the grant that was presented on the 31st of January of this year. And we requested funding at that time, as a number of people did, for, in our case, a vehicle and some signage. We provided the required paperwork on time, gave our presentation in the allotted time period, as did others involved in the process. As nonprofit organizations and small groups, obviously these are time and resource intensive operations, and what I saw through this process opened my eyes to a number of possibilities, including flying drones to monitor trails and a number of other things, and it was exciting and educational. And you know, these grants ranged from education, law enforcement, the drone photo mapping, and ourselves, as well as other people, seem to be excited about the process and the prospects as a result of these proposals. In everything that I've seen, the process seems fair, transparent, and that the commissioners were engaged in questioning whether that question was difficult or not. And hopefully everybody here was able to answer those in a reasonable manner. We left January 31st feeling optimistic, good about our presentation. We had conversations with Andy Hart of the Nevada Outdoor School, Winnemucca, who couldn't unfortunately be here today. And although the rest of my comments don't apply to the Nevada Outdoor School, he did asked me to let you folks know that as friends or the Nevada Outdoor School through this process hopes you move forward as you have already planned, and that the grants go forward. We were not at the February 1st meeting, however. I have listened to the official transcript and audio recording, and again, it seemed fair and transparent. Discussion on each grant seemed clear, and the commissioners appeared to be thoughtful and thorough in discussion. As it turned to our grant, there were many questions raised, and some that were questioning whether or not